including the front stretch, where you're going to see a lot of snaking back and forth, trying to break that draft, and a lot of drivers trying to stay in that draft, hopefully get a slingshot down into that slow turn one, where they're going to have to get into that sort of heavy braking zone. And it's going to be quite a show. But right now, Peter, the cars are rolling off for their qualifying times, seeing what kind of laps they can post. And it's going to be interesting, and the track's going to feel a lot different on their own, turning their single car qual laps than it's going to feel in the pack later on.
That is absolutely the case. You're looking right now at John Eckhart, the fourth here, coming down the front stretch into turn number one, almost cracking 200 miles an hour there before diving off into turn number one. Folks, if you're looking for the American Sim Racing Series, well, the Premier Series is under a new banner here, the Sim Racers Club, and will be under the Sim Racers Club banner from henceforth. And just got to say, kind of cool to be a part of a new league here, racing their first Premier Series event. Who will be the first driver to go to victory lane in the Sim Racers Club? We will find out right here tonight on 3 Wide TV here in, of course, the Cleveland Raps 150. Big shout out to Cleveland Raps for sponsoring tonight's event here on 3 Wide TV. And it's going to be fun to see all 150 miles of the show here tonight. Just waiting to see these drivers put in their first lap times, and John Eckhart will be the first driver to put in a time, a 55-second flat. Michael Krobot going to jump up to the top of the board with a 54.509. Just waiting on a couple of other drivers here to trickle in. Greg Evans, the number 2 machine, jumps to the top of the board. There, Andre.
He's immediately dethroned by Steve Yenich, who was able to get to the top of the board with a 54.410. Now, these drivers' second laps may be a little bit quicker. Their tires will have a little bit more heat in them. And as I'm saying that, there goes the number 11, Tyler Seville. The driver has been on a bit of a roll in the races that we've seen him in recently. He's up to the top of the board. First driver to get out of that 54.4 area. He got a 54.399. And Thomas George also jumping up into the podium. He's sitting third right now off of his first lap, right ahead of Greg Evans. So this right now, this scoring pylon jumbling around as these drivers finish their first and second laps.
Yeah, Tyler Seville was actually on the pole for the second duel last season in the Sim Racers Club Premier Series. And trying to back that up here with another good qualifying run here tonight. Johnny Avila going to go second on the board in the number 63 machine. But look at last week's race winner, as I say that, Drew Carroll, who absolutely dominated last week at a Nashville Super Speedway as the series returned to the Nashville Super Speedway for the first time in over 10 years. We got to keep an eye out for that number 27 here tonight, Andre. Carroll was so fast at a tricky track last week, which is, of course, Nashville. This racetrack, you've highlighted it, it's a tricky triangle. This is another tricky track, and maybe it will kind of fall into the wheelhouse of Drew Carroll, as at least right now looks like he'll be starting on the front row.
It is a very similar driving style you have to have. It's a very different track, but the driving style is very similar. A lot of these drivers are going to be trail braking down into turn 1, and especially turn 2. Turn 3 is going to be a little bit more of a coasting turn, but turns 1 and 2, with that drag braking, that's what they were doing all last week at Nashville. Every single time they went to the corner, they were dragging their brakes going in and eventually rolling into them and entirely getting off that throttle before rolling back into it carefully. And that's kind of the same technique they'll be using here. So it's going to be really, I think, within Drew Carroll's wheelhouse, and I think you're right. We're going to have to keep an eye on him. Speaking of keeping an eye on these drivers, look at Johnny into the top of the board in that number 63 car. He posted a 54.391, so he was able to take the pole by just over 8 thousandths of a second. Incredibly close between Johnny Avila and Tyler Seville.
Yeah, and Avila was one of those drivers who did a second lap and was actually able to pick up a little bit. Not a whole lot of drivers actually did here in the qualifying session, but Avila on lap number 2 was about 1/100th of a second faster, 100.5 seconds faster. I mean, that's not a lot of time, but Andre, that was just enough for Avila to at least provisionally pick up the pole here.
Absolutely, and I think that's going to make a big difference, being able to start up front if he holds on to this pole. Scott Eckrich there almost tried to dethrone him with the exact same lap time, 54.391 to both of these drivers. And so Scott Eckrich just barely missing out on pole. As I was saying, being able to start on the inside of row one, having that preferred line into turn one, not a lot of grip up top in turn one at this track. There's a lot of banking, but not much grip. So if you are trapped on the high side, you got a train of cars beneath you, that car can be a bit of a handful. And so Johnny Avila might have saved himself some trouble if he can hold on to this pole. But I still can't believe that, Peter. A tie for the pole time. Of course, Johnny Avila got the time first, but he is going to be the one at the pole right now.
Yeah, of course, Scott Eckridge has been on absolute tear here with clicking off pole after pole after pole after pole here in the Premier Series in the Sim Racers Club. Picked up that pole last week in the Music City 200 in the Sim Speed Shop Wheelman Showdown. Wasn't able to convert that to a win. However, he is looking very, very fast here tonight in the number 70, and we'll see what he can do coming out of turn number 4. We'll just see whether or not he does pick up the pole. Does not look like it. Scott Eckridge just a little bit slower on lap number 2. So at least for now, we do have a couple of stragglers out there on the racetrack, but Johnny Avila's lap time looking pretty darn good right now.
I gotta wonder if some of these drivers that are just going out now were maybe waiting to see if they could get some overcast. Of course, a cooler track is a faster track. But unfortunately for them, I don't think we're going to see much overcast today. Looking at the sky right now, just looking at the track conditions that we've had throughout the 10 minutes of qualifying, it's been pretty sunny. Not much overcast, at least in the first two sectors of the track. So that's kind of something some of these guys will do sometimes. They'll just wait it out, see where the cloud coverage rolls in, if they can maybe squeeze out a couple extra hundredths of a second on that cooler track. But right now, they kind of got to scramble to post those last 2 laps because they've waited. The cloud cover never came, and they still got to make their way around this track a couple of times.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Folks, we thank you for joining us here on 3Y TV. Mr. Producer Carlos Acosta mentioned it just a little while ago that we are now less than 90 subscribers away from the big milestone, getting to 4 digits. Coming into tonight, 913 subscribers to 3Y TV, and for each subscriber in the chat, we really do appreciate it. And you guys are really special and make 3Y TV what 3Y TV is. And I'm sure we'll be touching on that as we get closer to 1,000. We do have a special video lined up once we do reach 1,000 subscribers. Very much looking forward to that one myself. And as you see, Scott Eckridge here pulling off onto pit road, getting a little bit of pit stop practice in. We do believe, Andre, that the pit window here tonight is going to be about 40 laps. So these drivers should be able to make the 60-lap event here tonight on only one pit stop. And could be a little bit interesting if we do get a awkward caution right there around lap number 20. And we go green from there. But cautions have not been very prolific over the last couple of weeks here in the Premier Series. We had a caution-free race last week at Nashville Superspeedway. We had a caution-free race in the World 600, or the World 300, I should say, a couple of weeks back. And then, of course, we had a couple of road course races kind of in there over the last couple of weeks. So not a lot of cautions in the last month here in the Premier Series, and I'm sure a lot of the drivers will want to keep it that way here in the Cleveland Raps 150.
Absolutely, they will. And yeah, those cautions have not been very plentiful. Definitely a good thing, I think, in the eyes of the drivers and the fans. You never want to see the race action broken up too much or too often. And I definitely, if I was the man, we're going to see some green flag pit stops tonight for that one stop. And the pit road here is pretty interesting. You know, we've talked about some difficult pit roads over the last few races and how the entries have been kind of awkward. What I find interesting about Pocono's pit road is it's difficult for a completely different reason. It's difficult because it's tempting. It's a wide open, straight on entrance into the pits out of turn 3. You have all the time in the world to line your car up, and it's never going to catch you short. So the temptation there, of course, is to get into the pits as quickly as you can and carry as much speed as you can, braking as late as humanly possible. And that can lead to some unintended speeding penalties if you don't get it loaded up quite in time. At least in my experience, that's how I've always felt about this pit road. It's always been one of those ones that kind of calls to you and it tells you, no, you can brake a little bit later. But in reality, you got to make sure you get that 55 mile an hour pit speed limit attained. But We have finished our qualifying, and we can confirm that Johnny Avila is going to stay on the pole, and Scott Eckert is going to be on the outside of row one with his exact same lap time, 54.391 to both of those gentlemen. Tyler Seville, row two, on the inside with a 54.399. Then we're into the 54.4s with Drew Carroll on his outside. Row three, Steve Yenish and Thomas George behind them. Will Worsler and Greg Evans, two drivers that qualified a little bit earlier, and I'm noticing that some of the drivers that went out really early are a little bit further down the board. So maybe the track temp did change over the course of that qualifying. And then to round out your top 10, AJ Digby and Michael Arch.
Yeah, starting on the inside of row number 6 there at the bottom of the screen, Woody Mahan and Tim Knott in the number 41 machine. Then back behind them on row number 7 on the inside will be the number 72 of Michael Krobach, and Adam Jersky in the number 69 will be lining up alongside him. In the 14th position, Brian Yazik and Rye Jones. Rye, one of the newcomers here to the Sim Racers Club Premier Series. He'll be rolling off 16th here tonight. Kevin Stone in the Famucci wear number 17 will be rolling off from the 17th position. Meanwhile, Mark Cohn, the Pink Panthers in the field here tonight. Scott Nizumi Studios on the number 51. Bright pink, you won't be able to miss that one, folks. He'll be rolling off from the 18th spot, like I said. Troy Haight and John Eckhart, the 4th, will round out your top 20.
And to fill out the rest of the field, we've got Jackson Van Volkenberg with a 54.979. He'll be rolling out 21st alongside Alan Young in that 24 machine with a 55.039. Behind them, you got Richard Fletcher and Adam Blattel. Those were the last two drivers to post a time. Behind them on the scoring board, we have some drivers who did not post qualifying times. Mark Myers and Adam Hovland, 25th, 26th, and 27th, Todd Kirk. And that is going to be your entire field. So now you know where your favorite driver is going to start, know where to keep your eye on the track. And we're going to have just one short pace lap around this very long track, which is kind of counterintuitive now that I think about it. And we're going to be underway.
You know, you say that. I mean, they're pacing around here at near on 100 miles an hour. So the pace speed is quite high here, and that will make those caution flags a little bit short. And I'm just kind of looking at the back half of the field, kind of yet to form up. The race leader, Johnny Avila, is going off into turn number 2. We right on board here with the number 24 machine back there, Alan Young. You can see that they're not even to turn number 2 yet, and the leader is now in the short chute between turns number 2 and 3. And like he mentioned it, Andre, these 3 corners here at Pocono are all different. Turn number 1 has the most degrees of banking at 14, modeled after Trenton Speedway. Turn number 2 has 8 degrees of banking. It is modeled after the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And turn number 3 here is modeled after the Milwaukee Mile at only 6 degrees of banking. So it gets progressively less banking around the 3 corners here tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Sim Racers Club Premier Series is about to go green here in tonight's Cleveland Raps 150. Avila gets a decent start, the number 70, alongside him of Scott Eckrich. They're going to be side by side here going off into turn number 1, Andre.
And it is not very often you see the car that wasn't the control car getting the advantage into turn 1 on the outside. But Eckrich in that number 70 was able to get a great start, which, bear in mind, viewers at home, that is perfectly legal. You can reach the line first, presuming you are on the outside. Now, if he had been on the inside and reached the line first, that would have been a little bit different in the eyes of the penalty system. But because he was on the outside, he made a perfect play right there. He got a good lunge, and he stayed side by side as they made their way through turn 1 and now turn 2, just barely getting to that quarter panel for that side draft. Now a good run into 3 and 4. Looks like Scott Eckrich might be able to get him by the time they get to this front stretch, but the 63 driving it in deep down on that yellow line. The 70 is clear. Can he drop down and block? Yes, he can. New race leader for the first lap of this event, Scott Eckrich.
Yeah, Scott Eckrich and that number 70 machine showing his muscle. We're hearing a little bit further back, the number 41 machine of Tim Knott hit the wall. We saw him go up the racetrack in turn number 2, and I think he caught the wall coming out of turn number 3, so definitely not a good lap for the number 41 machine. We have seen Gunskins on the hood of that number 41 machine. He's been in the group Discord with a couple of pictures. Here we got the replay, top right corner of your screen. You know what? I don't know if he hit that wall, Andre. It was definitely tight, but for me, the Gunskins number 41's looking all right, at least for right now. Meanwhile, your first side-by-side battle is a battle around the 10th position between Michael Larch, who has Cleveland wrapped on the hood of the number 3 machine. A really good-looking ride here tonight in the Cleveland Wrap 150. The 14 of AJ Digby to his outside. We know AJ back in the field here tonight after trying to qualify for the Paralympics over in Tokyo this year. And AJ out there running in the 9th position. Michael Larch there lost a couple of spots. He's now back behind Woody Mahan, who just crept around the number 3 of Larch into the top 10, Andre.
And we got a new race leader again, Johnny Avila to the front. On the front straightaway, Scott Eckrich was the leader. He dove down to break the draft like we talked about before the race. But it almost seemed like when he dropped down, as the leader gets really loose on the apron, when Scott Eckrich dropped down to break that draft, it was like a parachute came out of the back of his car. Johnny Avila got a huge run. He took the lead, and the number 27, Drew Carroll, was able to follow in tow and all get around Eckrich. So he dropped 2 positions in trying to drop down and break that draft. So I got to wonder, maybe this aero package is going to require these leaders to try to stay in front of the competition to kind of get that push from behind. There's a huge air bubble around these cars. The pushing is bigger than ever, even if you're not necessarily touching the car in front of you. There is that bubble of air, and it does affect them. So maybe a lesson learned very early for Scott Eckrich when he dove down, and that car just lost all of its momentum and stalled out. Tyler Seville behind him, trying to maybe make up a position here to get up in the podium. He's been running in 4th for a while now. Greg Evans there in 5th behind him as he ride on board with Tyler Seville. You can see exactly how difficult this track really is. Look at how much they have to arc these corners down through the corners as we now go on board with Greg Evans and turn 3 and 4. I would say the turn 3 here is probably the most difficult, Peter, because it's one of the fastest corners, one of the widest corners, and there's very little banking. So it's all about how much momentum you feel comfortable carrying. How fast can you get into that corner without the rear end sliding out on you? In turn 1, that banking sometimes catches you. In turn 2, it's a relatively sharp corner, so you're kind of not spending too much time in it. But turns 3 and 4, a lot of time spent, and it's all about how far you want to push it.
Yeah, I don't know what turn 4 is here, though. I only know this place has 3 corners. They have what turn 4 on the turn number 3 wall. But, I'll tell you what, this racetrack is very tricky. We'll see if we can get a jump on board with one of these drivers as they work their way through turn number 2. Turn number 1, it's all about getting the power out of turn number 1. But here, right here, turn number 2, it's all about keeping up your momentum. Turn number 2, you have to roll the car through the corner unlike any other racetrack, because this little short shoot down into turn number 3 right here is so important to be able to hold your line. You really, turn 3 ends up being so line sensitive, Andre, that if you're not in the right position in turn number 3, it can really screw up your corner. You want to be right down there on the yellow line. We saw Johnny Avila there actually go below the yellow line, those left side tires just above the rumble strips that they have down there. And that is a good place to be. Usually that loosens up your race car just a little bit if you're down that far. Avila there might have actually caught the yellow line. We saw some movement out of those hands that kind of seemed like he might have hit one of those bumps down there or hit the apron through turn number 1 and 2. But what I'm seeing right now is a lot of the field isn't stretching out, but here comes Drew Carroll, and definitely seeing that number 27 machine trying to take the race lead here, trying to carry that momentum through turn number 2. Unable to do it, at least for right now, but now he has the preferred line into turn number 3, and he should be able to pull that move, I think, on Johnny Avila for the race lead.
He's going to slide up a little bit. Not much he could do there. The 63 able to get back to the lead as the 27 lets off the throttle to avoid contact. That is exactly like you said, Peter. Very line-sensitive corner. And what happened there was the 27 was pinched down to the bottom. He was on those rumble strips. And unfortunately, to make that car stick, he had to sacrifice his momentum and stall that car out. Otherwise, he was going to slide right up the track. There's no banking to catch him. He probably would have made contact with the 63, and it would have been a bad day for them and everybody behind them. But the 27 made the smart and probably patient play to kind of back out of it there. And those rumble strips, they are kind of a blessing and a curse. If your tires are fresh, and if you get the angle right into the corner, which there the 27 was pinched low on entry, so it wasn't going to work, but if you get the right angle and your tires are fresh, you can use those rumble strips to actually rotate your car a little bit more. It is something you'll see some of these drivers do occasionally, but once your tires are worn, like you can see right there, the 27, he clipped onto those rumble strips, his car rotated. That's exactly what I mean. But once the tires are worn, those rumble strips are a death sentence. If you hit them, your car is going to go around and you're going to have a bad night So they're going to have to be careful. They're going to have to pay attention to the handling of their car, exactly where they're at in terms of how far their tires have faded. But man, this battle for the lead has been really, really entertaining because I'm noticing that Drew Carroll and Johnny Avila, they are both fast at different portions of the track. It seems like that 63 has all of his speed through turn 1. Something about his line through there allows him to pull away a little bit. Then you come through turns 2 and turn 3, and it seems like that 27 just carries that momentum a little bit more. You mentioned how they have to let that car roll through the second turn. And, sounds like something on the driver radio. I see some damage on the 88, and he came across the radio very displeased with somebody. So not sure what happened with Thomas George, but he is still in the race. He didn't wreck, just a little bit of damage to the rear end. So that's quite interesting.
And of course, that number 88 machine had a stellar race last week at the Nashville Super Speedway as George ended up on the podium coming home in second with a late race charge to get that second place finish. We'll see if we can get this replay going off into turn number 2. That's Michael Larch in the number 3, right behind the number 88 machine of George. There was definite contact between those two. Fantastic save out of Thomas George in the number 88 machine. Kept it going straight. Unfortunately for Michael Larch, however, he lost quite a few positions in that scuffle. He's now back to the 13th position. Oh, more contact between Kevin Stone and Michael Larch. Just a little bit back behind this. There they are. There was a little bit of Rubbins racing between the number 17 and turn number 3, and number 3, in turn number 2. As
and contact again.
More contact. Yeah, those two definitely not playing nice right now.
I think somebody needs to check that number 3 for a magnet under the bodywork. Because seems to be attracting a lot of cars over this last couple of laps. Luckily, everybody able to gather it up. I'm noticing the 3 dropped a lot of positions on the straightaway there. I'm not sure if that was just a result of his stalled momentum out of the corner, but we do have a yellow flag. Not sure what happened yet. Oh, somebody upside down, sliding down the banking.
Yeah, that's Todd Kirkwood upside down in his machine. Troy Haight was the other car that was heavily injured there. Let's see if we can figure out what all went down to bring out the first caution flag of the night. Here is Troy Haight and Todd Kirkwood. Kirkwood looking low here in turn number 1. And I don't know if Kirkwood pushed up or the 28 came down. Kind of hard to see there. We are experiencing a little bit of connection troubles here tonight on 3-Wide TV. Let's see if we can maybe put this into the 3-Wide TV slow-mo, and I don't know. That's one of the things where I think Troy Haight was probably expecting Todd Kirkwood to be a little bit lower on the racetrack, but I don't think Kirkwood necessarily was the culprit there. It seemed like 2 cars ending up at the same spot on the racetrack.
Yeah, it definitely looked like a racing deal. Again, our perspective of it is kind of limited due to the server connectivity issues there. But like you said, one car was coming down, one car was maybe coming up a little bit, and ultimately just kind of met up at the same real estate, and that's never going to end well. But the really unfortunate thing for Kirkwood there was just that, he got that right front up on that safer barrier, and it gripped. It just kind of drove him up the wall and flipped him up and over. And what should have been a generally recoverable incident with only a little bit of damage ended up being situation where he had to tow, and now he probably has a significant amount of damage. It's not every day you see a car get upside down at a track like Pocono, but sometimes you get the tire just to grip on that wall at the right angle, and it'll take you up and over, as we saw right there.
Yeah, I was just looking back. He impacted the wall at 140 miles an hour and change. Did the number 19 of Todd Kirkwood. So his night will be more than likely done. At least it's number 19 on the scoring pylon, number 40 on the side of Todd Kirkwood's very mangled Toyota Camry. He has taken it to the garage. Adam Blattel in the number 7 machine has also taken it to the garage. The number 7 had some right front damage after some contact with the outside wall. We believe that damage was self-inflicted, but he has taken the number 7 behind the wall, probably thinking that the damage was just a little bit too much to keep going here tonight. Meanwhile, the entire field is on pit road, at least to some extent, as Johnny Avila going to come down into his pit box. Got the number 70 Scott Eckridge right behind him. Tyler Seville back there, Drew Carroll, and Steve Yenish, your first 5 cars in the pit boxes right there, right exactly where they qualified. And Andre, that's one thing that we don't often talk about here on 3Y TV, but you'll see Avila win that race off pit road. But where you qualify is actually what pit box you get from the end of pit road. And that can be very advantageous, especially if you're the pole sitter like Johnny Avila.
In real life, when you qualify first, you get first pick, so you would be able to take generally any pit stall you want, I believe. The simulator is confirmed, concerned, I should say. If you qualify first, you get the first box. Qualify second, you get the second box. And sometimes it's a little bit better to have that box that's right on the exit of pit road because you don't have to worry about trying to really exit and get back out in the right lane and watching the traffic around you. You can just kind of drive straight out of your pit stall, back out onto the track, and no stress, no drama. And if you don't qualify very well and you got a pit stall that's really close to the end of pit road, that gives you a lot less time to prepare, a lot more traffic that you got to navigate as you're exiting your pit stall. It can be a very large headache. So definitely played out in Johnny Avila's favor that he was able to have that first stall, got out ahead of the 70 just barely. And I think I agree with pretty much everybody on this track when it comes to the call to pit. We had made about 10 laps under green, which is plenty enough to wear out your tires at a track like Pocono. 3 very grating corners that will absolutely destroy your tires. A very large track, so 10 laps is quite a bit of time. These cars are going to be feeling a lot better on these 4 fresh Goodyears, but they're not going to be good on fuel, I don't believe. If you said they can go about 40 laps, that's going to put them anywhere between 10, and if you assume they're saving fuel under pacing, 10 to 5 laps short of the end of the event, which is going to be interesting because when they come down to pit, assuming they can't make it, they could take less fuel and possibly just right sides if they wanted to save time and try to get out as quickly as possible. But that would be kind of a risky move. I know on iRacing in particular, taking just right sides is kind of scary. Sometimes the handling of the car is not that good unless you take all 4 tires. So it's going to be interesting to see what these drivers choose to do later down the line.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. I'm wondering if we're going to have any of these drivers maybe, or if any of the drivers were able to come down and top off. They won't be able to top off again because the iRacing pace car lights have been extinguished up at the front of the field. So we will get back to racing here very, very shortly. That is the good news here, folks. On 3Y TV, how's the chat doing here tonight? Just want to check on you guys. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. We got Todd Kirkwood saying erg in the chat. Daniel Noble saying hi, Peter. How's it going, Dan? Hopefully you're having a good night. Hopefully you're not working all too late here. And that's kind of about it. Nikki Worsler in the chat, rooting on the Will Worsler Racing Machines. But yeah, kind of a quiet night in the chat here at Pocono Raceway. Well, that's okay. That's not terrible. We'll leave the action onto the racetrack and, you know, probably the better place for the action to happen, Andre. But you can see Avila, Eckrich, Greg Evans, Drew Carroll, and Tyler Seville, your top 5 as we get set to go back racing. Will Worsler in the 6th position right now. Steve Yenish, Thomas George, Michael Krobach, and Woody Mahan rounding out your top 10. Pace cars on pit road, just waiting to see the green flag from the flagman. And we are back racing here at Pocono, Andre.
And Johnny Avila was not going to make that same mistake twice. He was not going to let the number 70 get the jump on him going down into turn 1. It cost him the lead for a few laps, and it was a fight to get it back. This time, he was able to get a great jump as the control car. He went a little bit earlier than before. Got out ahead of Scott Eckrich in that number 70. So he's going to have control of the field as they make their way into turn 2. Greg Evans has moved up a couple positions since we last checked on him. He's up into P3. Drew Carroll in 4th behind him as they go single file for the top 5 into turn 2. I'll tell you what, man, Scott Eckrich is getting a little aggressive. He's trying to get that position back.
And speaking of aggressive, I saw a little bit further back, Steve Yenish in the number 23 machine. He just had a big moment going through turn number 2, lost a couple of positions. And look at this, 3 wide further back in the pack. We got Eckhart up there scraping the outside wall. Rye Jones on the bottom, the 55 of Brian Yazek in the middle. Yazek's going to lose quite a few positions here. Same thing with Rye Jones. It seemed like that middle and lower groove just kind of stalled out as Eckhart was able to blast around the outside in the Patriot Media and Marketing Services Toyota. They'll move him up into the 12th position, looking at the back of Adam Jersky's Beef Jersky's Cheesecake Emporium, number 69. That bright green machine that you see right there getting to the outside of Woody Mahan as they go off into turn number 2 here. Mahan on the inside, Jersky on the outside as they go through the tunnel turn.
I'm really surprised how multi-groove this racing has been so far, Peter. I mean, we've seen... Oh! Adam Jersey goes around.
Jersky coming back up the racetrack. Hopefully, Kevin Stone clobbers the number 69 machine, and that will be the second caution flag of the night. I was just about to say, hopefully no one hits him, and I just had to open my mouth because Kevin Stone was there to do otherwise, and unfortunately, it looks like the number 69 Beef Jerky's Cheesecake Emporium machine will go no further. That engine is completely toast. Let's dial up the 3 white TV replay for your folks here. Headed down the backstretch, there's the number 84 machine, and it just gets into his the left rear quarter panel, does a perfect pit maneuver on the number 69 machine. Unfortunately, pit maneuvers are usually left for the police on those highway chases, not here at Pocono Raceway, because it will end up like that. Adam Jersky's night done here at Pocono.
I was just going to say, right when that happened, I was surprised how multi-groove the racing has been. You can see the 69 had a great run on the outside, and honestly, I think maybe in that situation, that was the other drivers also being surprised that it was so multi-groove, because I'm not sure he knew that Adam Jersky was up there. Jersky got such a big run, it's fully possible that he drifted up the track because he simply did not expect that 69 to get a run like that, and he just did. So here's another angle through the wreck here. And the 14 car on the outside as they round this corner. I believe this is on board with the 17. Yep, and there's the contact. Hard hit for that 17. Both of their nights likely done. Yeah, just a rough situation there. You would... Seems like a bit of an awareness issue, but it's so easy, Peter. I mean, your field of view in these cars is so limited, especially if you're on a single monitor and you don't have a live spotter kind of handle what's going on. You can't always rely on the game spotter, and you can't always see what's going on. So, unfortunately, these mistakes are easy to make, and tonight it just resulted in 2 drivers with their early end of their night.
And that was definitely an interesting look of that accident right there. Now, for all of you people wondering whether or not any of these drivers came down pit road, they did not. Only driver I'm seeing that did come down was Mark Myers in the 04 machine. Of course, Kevin Stone and Adam Jersky also coming down pit road, but they're coming down pit road to fix their damage. AJ Digby is coming down pit road. I wonder, Andre, if AJ's thinking Alan Young also on pit road. And the number 24 machine. So my apologies. I didn't quite get everyone on pit road. But I'm wondering, Andre, if some of these drivers are thinking, you know what? 43 laps, that's quite a bit. But if we go out there, pace car lights are still on. You can still save probably about a lap of fuel from here. We heard 40 laps was the pit window number. But maybe you'd be able to save a lap or two. This is a racetrack where you can do a lot of what's called lift and coast. Just get off the throttle a little bit sooner and just let the car coast into the corner, not use the brake. These drivers will be using brake here at Pocono. But if you can replace the brake pedal with just letting off the gas sooner, you can save quite a bit of fuel. There's also quite a bit of draft here at Pocono. We've already highlighted that. And so using that draft, you can actually get off the throttle a little bit on the straightaway if you're sucking up to the back bumper of the car in front of you and save some fuel that way. So this is a racetrack where we have seen, even in real life NASCAR, a couple of races come down to fuel mileage. So that wouldn't be out of the picture here tonight. Now, another thing I want to highlight, Kevin Stone and Adam Jersky, Andre, both of those cars will be going home here tonight. Both of those cars packing it up, and 2 heavily damaged to continue here tonight.
Yeah, I kind of saw that fuel mileage theory here, because I was expecting a lot more drivers to come down pit road. The way I see it, like you said, 43 laps, that's a little bit beyond the window. But like you said, this is a track where you can conserve a lot of coasting, a lot of off-throttle time. This isn't a Talladega or a Daytona or even an Atlanta where you're on the throttle most of the time. You can save, but it's very, very doable. So I think as far as the drivers that came down pit road that time, the 24 and I believe one other driver, they made a good call. It is fully possible they could make it to the end if they play their cards right. Because beyond the lifting and the coasting, of course, there's also the draft. Very long straightaways, very big packs here at Pocono that you can kind of tuck into. And of course, that's going to save you some fuel. So this race, I think, got a lot more interesting with that caution as far as strategy is concerned.
Yeah, and I don't always like to toot my own horn, but I have won a sim race, a league race, actually back in the 3 Wide Racing League, which is actually how 3 Wide TV got its name, for all of you people trying to get random trivia back at home. I beat my teammate by saving fuel. Both myself and my teammate ran out of fuel coming out of turn number 3 on the final lap together. He had run me down from 10 seconds back. I was saving as much fuel as I could. He ran me down from 10 seconds back, and we both ran out of fuel right about where the cars are now. I thought he was going to beat me when I ran out of fuel, but he didn't. Fuel saving is a thing here at Pocono and can be done. Green flag back in the air. Pace car down pit road. Johnny Avila leads us back to that green flag. Scott Eckrich to his outside. Got one driver poking his nose out further back. That is the number 41 of Tim Knott. Knott has a little bit of front end damage on the number 41 machine. We're 3 wide towards the back of the pack. Rye Jones in the number 91 digging down there on the bottom side of the racetrack. You see the whole field here charging down the backstretch and towards turn number 2.
And Will Worsler kind of hung out to dry there on the bottom of that number 29. Looked like he was going to make a move on the 72, but when he got the straightaway, that outside lane had all the draft help, and he had none, so he's dropped a couple positions getting into turn 2 here. Now side by side with the number 23, Steve Yanish. And he's going to fall back another position as they nearly go 3 wide. Some near contact there. It's been up and then gets sideways into 3. It has been a rough lap for Will Worsler in that 29 machine, but he's held on to it so far as he stays underneath that number 91. He's going to be the first car side by side, but right now just getting freight train. And this shows, Peter, how important the draft can be at this track. You can see that 29 just dropping positions all the way through the field because the outside, they're all in a line, and they're going to be getting a little bit of extra horsepower because they've been doing so.
Yeah, meanwhile, Rye Jones in the number 91 machine is slicing his way up through the field. He was 13th spot on that last restart. He just got around the number 45 of John Eckhart to move himself up into 9th. So he's picked up a couple of positions as we watch the number 55 of Brian Yazik battle with John Eckhart now for that 10th position. But one thing I do want to highlight, we mentioned this, that turn number 2, you want to carry as much momentum through. Turn number 3, it's really important to get a good drive off. This front straightaway is the longest straightaway in all of NASCAR. And if you don't get a good drive off of turn number 3 down the straightaway, your entire lap can be compromised. As we have a battle side by side for second, as Scott Eckrich has worked his way to the lead, and now Greg Evans has got himself up into second. So your reigning Premier Series champion now up into the second spot, trying to track down Scott Eckrich in front of him. Drew Carroll slid his way up to third, so Johnny Avila goes from second to fourth in one fell swoop. Tyler Seville now looking to possibly pounce out back of the number 63, and Avila gets a little wobbly going off into turn number 2, and still having a case of the wobbles in the number 63 Chevy Camaro.
Yeah, that was a result of bump drafting. It was kind of hard to see on the broadcast there, but I was following along with the 63, and he was actually pushing the 27 of Drew Carroll, who in turn was also pushing Greg Evans. So they were doing a little bit of bump drafting on that straightaway, and when they kind of started to lift to get into the corner and the weight started to shift around, that got the 63 really unsettled. The weight was moving around, and he just had a bad time through that corner. It took him a while to gather it up. But luckily, he was able to fend off Tyler Seville in that number 11. Tyler got to the inside. It looked like he was going to be able to make the move, but then the 63 just with a really great run through turn 3 was able to kind of get that momentum on the outside and swing back around and hold on to that 4th position. But man, going into turn 2 here, that 63 closing the gap big time on corner entry, then losing it on corner exit. That's what we happen to see a lot when drivers send it in deep on entry. You make up a lot of time at first, but then you lose that on exit. So a lot of drivers are in some different lines. A couple of the leaders there using those rumble strips through 3 and 4, like I had mentioned. Their tires are still pretty fresh, so that's something they can do. And ooh, looks like maybe Avila tagged the wall there, so he's going to shoot down the track. And Tyler Seville is going to claim that 4th position for himself. As now here goes the number 2, Greg Evans, to the lead. He set up the overtake down the straightaway using the slipstream, got to the quarter panel, and as they dove into turn 1, he had the preferred line. The question is now, can he hold on to it? Because Scott Eckridge is not letting it go without a fight. He got a great run out of the corner. We're going to see who can carry more momentum through turn 2 as they line it up all the way to that outside wall. As we have a replay of the incident with the 63 top right of your screen. Johnny Avila, just a little bit too much throttle maybe on corner exit. No, I'm not sure if he even hit the wall. I think that might have been a big lift to avoid hitting the wall, hence the lost track time. But I don't think he got it, so luckily no damage on that 63. As here comes Scott Eckridge to the bumper of the number 2. How is he going to play it as he makes his way down the front straightaway? He got to the bumper, had to lift a little bit. That stalled his momentum, so he's going to have a bit of a gap going into turn 1. There they go. Down into turn 1. Greg Evans driving it in deep. Both drivers taking a very high corner entry. Running a middle groove, arcing it down to the bottom slowly. Eckridge closing the gap on corner exit, but very evenly paced for the lead here. And behind them, 2 drivers that are also fairly evenly paced. Tyler Seville, as we ride on board with him, he's right behind the number 27. And this is 4 cars, actually 5 cars under a blanket as now the 63 is caught back up to them. These 4 cars for the lead, they are absolutely bumper to bumper coming through turn 3 now. And you can just see all running very similar lines. Some of them maybe trying to get a little bit lower, a little bit higher to get out of the dirty air. But for the most part, they've got the same philosophy when it comes to the lines that they run. And tell you what, Peter, I'm noticing the trouble spot is coming out of turn 3 as the number 11 had to give a big lift right there. You see he's broken away from this lead pack a little bit. He had to lift. Otherwise, he was going to slide up to that outside wall.
Yeah, also like Avila, lucky not to make any contact with that outside retaining wall. It is a tough one here because turn number 3 is so long. It feels like you're in turn number 3 for an eternity, Andre, that it is very difficult for you to find when to get on the throttle. There are some racetracks where you can just kind of find that you can get that feel and when to put the hammer down, but because that corner is so long and you're having to look around the corner and you can't see the exit of this corner till you're 2/3 of the way through it, sometimes you can get on the throttle a little bit too early, and when you do that, well, the old friend will come knocking on the right hand side of the car, and when that happens, you can get some pretty hefty damage pretty quickly. And already Adam Littell, the number 7, that's what happened to him. He made contact with the outside wall. He lost the main draft. He just was losing a ton of time because he just made a little bit of contact with the outside wall. It can really ruin your night if you're not careful with it. Meanwhile, your front 5 drivers, 6 drivers, kind of all single file. Thomas George and the 88 machine snuck his way up into 6th. That's awesome to see. Him making a little bit of a recovery after contact earlier in the race with Michael Larch. Meanwhile, the battle for around 10th spot has been red hot as we're 3 wide down the short chute. Look at Jackson Van Valkenburg on the inside, Brian Yazik in the middle, and John Eckhart, the 4th in the number 45 machine up on the top side. We're still 3 wide through turn number 3 and almost contact between Van Valkenburg and Yazik, and that's going to give the number 29 machine a little bit of a run down there on the bottom side as Van Valkenburg had to check up. These drivers just kind of playing yo-yo with one another, it seems, because Yazik had got himself up to 10th, then Eckhart had run him down, then Van Valkenburg had run them both down, and now back behind them, you got side-by-side action with Will Worsler and Mark Cohn in the Pink Panther machine. You see the number 29. Now he's stuck down there on the bottom side of the racetrack out of the draft, and he's just going backwards like he has a parachute out back of the number 29 high-flow Chevy Camaro. He's going to fall all the way down to the 16th position as Eckhart now has a look to the inside of Yazik. That is one heck of a battle. Meanwhile, up towards your top 5, Thomas George just had a quick peek to the inside of Johnny Avila, but Avila able to hold on. Now Avila getting a strong run down the front stretch. He might look to the inside of Tyler Seville here before they get to turn number 1. Just waiting to see if that holds true or not. It does not. Seville able to scoot away just a little bit in his Arch Telecom number 11 machine. And I really love the looks of that number 11 machine. I love that kind of minty green that runs, kind of a spearmint color, if you will, on the Arch Telecom number 11. Really, really cool looking. I love some of these cars that they have here. in this Premier Series in the Sim Racers Club because of just how colorful they end up being. I mean, look at that. You got bright orange, you got this minty blue, you got this bright green, yellow, and it's just really pretty colorful at the front of the field.
A lot of great paint schemes throughout the field and even better battles, as it seems like this lead pack cannot get away from each other. They have just been pretty much bumper to bumper the whole time we've been talking about them. And of course, the battle a little bit further back in the pack for 10th. They're not three wide anymore, but the battle hasn't really died. They're still fighting each other for that position. And I'll tell you what, that's one thing I love about Pocono Theater is just how wide it is. When you give the drivers a track this wide, they get a little bit braver. And so when we saw Jackson Van Volkenberg and the number 55 Brian Yazik get three wide with, I believe it was what was it, the 45, I believe? No. Uh, my memory is failing me here, but when they got three wide, in any other track, any other situation, the number 55 probably would have lifted, probably wouldn't have wanted to be in the middle of that situation. But we're at Pocono. I mean, we're 20 cars wide here. You got plenty of room. He stayed in the throttle. He actually made the overtake, got himself up into the top 10. And it was an incredibly brave move, and that's just kind of the boldness that the track sort of imbues the drivers because it's so wide, so much room to work with. And you see moves like that all the time. And now here we go. Here's a battle for the lead. Scott Eckert is going to dive down to the bottom of Evans. He's going to get clear before they even reach the corner. Now the question is, can Evans try to get a run out of the corner? He got a high entry, arced it down low, but not quite going to get the run out that he might have hoped for. As the 70 is going to keep that 1.5 car length gap that he had going into the corner. And a bad day becomes, well, bad news becomes worse, I should say. It's Drew Carroll now trying to get around the number 2. He got right up to the bumper, thought better of it. He didn't quite dive down to the bottom going into 2. That's not exactly a good passing zone. Turn 2 is not a corner you want to go through too wide, unlike turns 3 and maybe even turn 1. Turn 2, you want to be about as single file and in the groove as you can be. So Carroll had a run, but he wasn't able to do anything with it. Now, pretty close going into turn 1. It looks like he's got a huge run coming down the straightaway. The 2 car got a little loose on corner exit. Does he do anything with this run? Does he peak low? And now we got a wreck on the straightaway. Do they save it? No!
And that was Woody Mahan in the number 84 machine that went around on the front stretch. I don't know whether or not the number 24 got a PS. Indeed, the 24 did get a piece of it right. They're doing some burnouts here on the front stretch, getting the number 24 Young Gun Creations Chevy Camaro pointed in the right direction. But unfortunately for the Mahan Speed Laboratories number 84 Ford Mustang, it looks like it might be night done. Some really heavy damage on the number 84 machine. Oh, there looked like there was contact possibly towards the back of the back. And look at the 84 trying to save it. And, man, Alan Young did all he could to save it as well. I'm not sure if Alan Young got any damage from that incident or not, but there was definite... Oh, so that's what started it, Alan Young and the 84. There was definite contact between those two. Young, I don't know if he made contact... Well, he ultimately made contact with the outside wall, but it might have been one of the similar deal to what we've seen a couple times here tonight, Andre, where the 24 of Young was trying to stay off that outside wall, had to check up, and unfortunately, the 84 machine right behind him was kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Definitely what it looks like. That exit at turn 3 has been the trouble spot all night long. You can see he was just trying to keep off the wall as we ride on board. Yeah, there was a little bit of contact with the wall. It actually slung him down into him. And I thought for a minute there that Mahan was going to save it. He really did a good job wrangling that thing as it tried to fight him down the straightaway, but unfortunately just lost it, fishtailing around up into that outside wall, which isn't a safer barrier, strangely enough. Got some damage from that, and then the 24 trying to avoid him looped himself out, and he's got some damage from the wall. I don't think either of those drivers' day is done entirely. I would say Mahan has probably substantial front-end damage from that outside wall, but not enough to take him out of it, so we'll have to see how much of that he can get repaired. And now I think this allows the drivers to sort of breathe a sigh of relief because they can come down pit road, get some fuel, and I would say pretty comfortably be within the fuel window. So now it's going to be all about coming down, getting that fuel, getting 4 fresh Goodyears, hoping that the race stays green, and just trying to keep your momentum up in the last half of this race.
Yeah, we definitely know that everyone in the field can make it to the end of the race from here. So I do expect to see a good majority of the field come down. And here they come onto pit road, led by the number 70 of Scott Eckrich. Number 2, Greg Evans, right back behind him. Nikki Wartzler in the chat saying, I think the number 29 machine got around it. Indeed, he did. No damage on the number 29 high flow Chevy Camaro of Will Wartzler as he goes past the pit boxes here on pit road. As with everyone else, you see everyone fanning over to their pit crews so they can get some 4 fresh tires and some Sunoco race fuel, virtual Sunoco race fuel here, as we're hearing that AJ Digby in the number 14 has stayed out. We'll see whether or not that's just the lead a lap or whether he thinks he's good on fuel to the end. But Greg Evans, the number 2 machine, is down and away. Great pit stop by the number 2 crew. As you can see, they're 3 wide, a little bit further back. But wow, Greg Evans, a monster on pit road. Great pit stop by that crew to get him out front.
It was a fantastic stop. And I'll tell you what, that number 2 car, Greg Evans being out front, that's got to be a scary sight for these other drivers because we know that 2 is fast. He's just not been able to get himself out in clean air and kind of use that car to its fullest capability. So we're going to have to see now that he's the control car, now that he's going to be able to get out to the lead here on this restart more than likely, what can he do with that clean air? What kind of speed does he have that we haven't seen because of the dirty air? Meanwhile, while the number 2 is having a great stop, the number 23, Steve Yenish, is not having a good stop. He overshot his stall and he has dropped a few positions on pit road as a result. So right now he's currently being scored in 9th as of the last time they crossed the line. So we'll have to see exactly where that sort of plays out, how that works out for him. No damage on that 23 or anything like that. So it was just overshot. It didn't get into anybody or anything like that. Just had to put it in reverse and lost a little bit of time. So it's going to be interesting, this restart. Like I said, the number 2, he's going to be in clean air for pretty much the first time. Although Digby, having stayed out, looks like I almost thought Digby was going to come down on the second lap. Sometimes you see drivers do that. No, he stayed out, so he will be the control car, number 14, it seems, because pit road will close when they cross the line this time. And so the number 2 will be on the front row, but Digby on slightly older tires will be the control car. That throws a wrench in things. I think that's going to make this restart a little hard to predict here, Peter.
Yeah, I agree. If you're AJ Digby up at the front, you're on 16 lap old tires right now. Granted, you probably only had about 13 of those laps under green flag. Just looking at the fall off that AJ Digby experienced under that last run that we had, his first lap when we went back to green was about a 55.1 second lap time. By the end of that stint, he was running 56.9s. So that is about a second and a half of fall off there. That's going to be pretty significant. At least in my books, Andre. Pretty significant that AJ Digby, he's going to be, about a second slower than the cars around him, presumably. And, maybe he's just thinking about saving a set of tires for later in the race. That could be a thing. Of course, they do have fixed tire limits here in the Sim Racers Club Premier Series. And, sometimes worth gambling like that. AJ Digby, though, will be your race leader. And another thing he has to watch out for, Andre, with those old tires is wheel spin on this impending restart.
Yeah, that is definitely a big thing. It's very easy to spin your tires when they've got a few laps on them. He's going to have to deal with that. And like I said, I really expected him to come down pit road on that second lap. So when he stayed out, I respect it. It's a bold play. We're going to see how it works out as the pace car is rounding its way out of turn 3. It's going to make that hard left turn, and we're going to have to figure out, can Digby manage this wheel spin as he gets into the restart zone? Pace cars away. Number 14 gets on the loud pedal, and a great start for AJ Digby in that number 14. What wheel spin, he says, as he's able to lead the way down the straightaway. But now, here comes the number 70 down to the inside with a great lunge. They're going to be 2 wide, 2 rows deep down into turn 1. Eckrich going to take the lead in that number 70. And now 3 wide. Evans in the middle. The 88 on the bottom. Contact. Evans slides up the track. He's able to gather it up. And Thomas George not free yet because they're going to go 3 wide again. This time Evans on the outside. Van Volkenberg on the bottom. He's going to split them and get around that 88 to get up into the podium. P3 for Volkenberg.
And they're 3 wide back behind them as well. They sort things out. AJ Digby falling through the field like an absolute pebble in water. He's now outside the top 10 as Johnny Avila gets to the inside of John Eckhart. They're nice and tight between one of the, at least those two drivers. And there might have been a scuffle a little bit further back in the pack with that outside wall again.
Yeah, Van Valkenburg in fourth. He clobbered that outside wall. He's going to drop back to fifth. But I got to point out, Van Valkenburg, on that initial lap of the restart, he started in eighth, and he was at one point all the way up to third. And he got into that outside wall, dropped back to fifth. But it has been a roller coaster of a restart for Jackson Van Valkenburg in that number 12. A lot of pace, but maybe a little bit too much as he slid up into the outside wall. And now we got a battle for the lead as the 27 has gotten to the rear bumper of Scott Eckrich. But like we've seen so many times as we ride on board with 27, he was right on the bumper going into turn 2. Might have been a little bit too close. He had to let off the throttle, had to stall out his momentum, and that put a bit of a gap as they come through turn 3. You see he's getting right down on that yellow line, using those rumble strips a little bit. But the 70 is going to extend that gap just a little bit, and now it's going to be up to the draft how much slipstream can the 27 use as they go too wide, several rows deep behind them. That looks to be for seventh position as they go side by side. Here comes the 27 again with a slightly higher corner entry. Greg Evans just kind of rallying to get back up to these leaders after that unfortunate contact with the outside wall.
Yeah, definitely that is true. There's a gaggle of cars from Thomas George now in fourth. Back behind him is Tyler Seville. There is Ryan Jones, who's been extremely fast, pushing up the racetrack, almost making contact with Brian Yazik there through the tunnel turn. That was really tight. Ryan Jones really had to get on the binders to not slide up into the left side of the thumbs up, cancer down number 55 here of Brian Yazik. Meanwhile, back behind him, Jackson Van Valkenburg almost making contact with the outside wall there. In fact, there might have been a little bit of contact with himself and Ryan Jones. And now look at this 4-car battle. John Eckhart, Jackson Van Valkenburg, Michael Krobach, and Johnny Avila. We know there's a lot of pace in that number 63 machine here tonight, but now he's kind of mired back in this pack of cars. Really nowhere for him to go. He's kind of stuck there behind the number 12 of Van Valkenburg on the outside, trying to use that draft to push Van Valkenburg on past the number 72 of Krobach. Krobach was kind of hanging on to the lead pack a little while ago as well. So we know the 72 is no slouch here tonight. This field really kind of shuffling on through. Steve Yenish now in the number 23 machine to the inside of Will Worsler. He's right behind Michael Larch. There this group is. You see the Pink Panther right there, Mark Cohn. He's battling with Michael Larch for a position. Steve Yenish, Yenish smacked the outside wall. That is some pretty hefty right side damage to the Tampa SUVRentals.com Toyota Camry. Yenish here going to have to struggle now with that damage. He's kind of with a group of drivers around him that also have some damage, but that's probably one of the harder hits that we have seen to that turn 3 wall here tonight, Andre.
Yeah, definitely a hard hit, and that damage is going to affect him. He's got a lot of right front damage, which is, again, never a place you really want to get damage. That arrow will affect you as we take a look at the replay on the top right of your screen. 3-wide TV multicam. Hits that outside wall, pings down the track, and now he's going to have to be battling a wounded horse for the rest of this night. After having kind of an already unfortunate night, I would say, the 23 missing his pit stall, having a few little bobbles even before that on the track. It's been a rough night for the 23. We know, obviously, Steve Yenish is a very talented driver. Seems to be that Pocono is just not his friend tonight. As a little bit further up the grid, keeping an eye on Greg Evans in that number 2, because he is finally caught up to this lead pack. He fell, I think, about 0.4 of a second back at one point. Now he's back in the bumper of the 27, who in turn is right behind our leader, Scott Eckrich, as they approach a wrapped car. That is Mark Myers in the number 04. As we go to our rear bumper cam, you can see the leaders approaching just behind him. This 3-car battle for the lead, it's going to be interesting. There's a lot to consider when it comes to setting yourself up for an overtake. Obviously, the draft is going to be a powerful tool that these guys can use, especially down the front straightaway. You mentioned earlier, Peter, that it's the longest straightaway in NASCAR as far as ovals are concerned. Maybe even as far as road courses, I'm not entirely sure. But there are a lot of drafting capability. The question is, can you set yourself up to reliably make that move? Because turn 2, very line sensitive, of course. You don't want to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So you got to make sure that if you're going to set up this pass, that you know it's going to play out in your favor and that everybody's going to be positioned where you need them to be. And for Greg Evans right now, he's kind of riding behind these two guys, waiting for that opportunity to present itself. And maybe this lap traffic is going to be the deciding factor. I mean, obviously, the lap traffic is going to do their best to get out of the way of the faster cars. But at the same time, you got three cars battling and you got a car that's a little bit off pace. Sometimes they just kind of come together and the paces get jumbled around. Sometimes there's got to be a bit of a lift. And that little bit of a lift can be what decides the overtake. So it's going to be interesting once they reach him. I'd say by the time they get to turn 2 next time, they're going to be right there with that lap traffic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the 04 machine right there up at the front of the field, not leading the race, but about to fall one lap down in front of your race leader there, Scott Eckridge. Excuse me, 2 laps down. Mr. Producer in my ear stating so. So that's kind of the state for you Mark Myers fans back at home. Tyler Seville racing side by side with Thomas George in the number 88 machine as Brian Yazik is going to join that battle. Gives a bump draft to the number 88 as they head off into turn number 2. Now Seville on the low side, Yazik on the top side. Back behind them, Rye Jones is trying to figure out which one of these two to go with. He looks like he's going to go with the number 55 of Brian Yazik. Yazik is going to clear the number 11 of Tyler Seville here through turn number 3. Can Seville? Ooh, Seville hit those rumble strips down there on the bottom side of the racetrack. He broke loose, and that allows Rye Jones to get the power down on that high line, move him now up to the 6th spot. And now Seville under fire from Johnny Avila, who was an early race leader. And Avila slides on through, move him up to 7th.
Ed 63 has just been carving his way back up through the pack. As far away as leaders have gotten, he might need a bit of a well-timed caution flag to really get back up to him. But despite that, he's worked all the way up to P6. And I got to tell you, when it comes to that number 55, we talked about him a little bit there, Peter. I like what I've seen out of Yazik. He has been incredibly aggressive, but in a smart way. He's made some overtakes on the outside. He's been racing hard with these guys, just getting the side drafts and bump drafting down the straightaway, doing everything he can to get an advantage. And now there's almost contact between him and the number 91. That was close. But Yazik, man, he has been so aggressive tonight. And he's really gained a lot of position so far as we have a battle for second. Looks like Mark Myers might have split up this lead pack just a little bit. And that's going to allow the number 2 to close in on that 27 and maybe present an opportunity to get a run here. Mark Myers trying to hold the bottom, stay out of the way of the leaders. He's doing a great job of it. Fantastic job by the number 04. Now he's going to try to slide up in their draft. The number 2 setting himself up. Now remember, turn 2, not exactly an overtaking zone. He's going to have to stay behind that 27. The question is, can he get the better run out and try to make something happen in turn 3? Down the second back straightaway, they're going to head into turn 3. A little bit of a gap between the 27 and the 2. Not going to be able to make anything happen, I don't think, this turn. So finally, a little bit of separation forming with these leaders, and probably a little bit of a second to breathe for Scott Eckert. He's been playing defense for the last 10 laps straight, and now a little bit of a breathing room.
Yeah, a little bit of breathing room, but Greg Evans and Drew Carroll kind of teaming up together, and they were able to eat into the lead that the number 70 of Scott Eckridge had there on the front stretch that last time by. Meanwhile, look at this group of cars from Brian Yazik, who's currently being scored in the 5th position, all the way back to really Mark Cohn, who is in the Pink Panther machine, the number 51 Nazumi Studios Chevy Camaro down in 12th. They're just kind of running single file, but they're not always running single file. This group has been shaking it up, and here comes Rye Jones to the inside, at least looking to the inside of the number 63 of Avila, but now Seville gonna try and fill the spot to his high line. And remember, Rye Jones just got around Tyler Seville a couple of laps ago. They try and trade positions back, and they won't this time. Jones gonna hold on to 7th. Seville still in 8th, but you can just kind of see they got a little train of cars going down the front stretch, just waiting for someone to jump out and make a move. But if you do jump out to make a move, it's going to be kind of hard to do so with the draft being so strong here, especially when you got this many cars all formed up. We've seen that here tonight, that kind of difficult unless you got a couple of cars to go with you. It's like Daytona or Talladega, where you kind of need a car or two to go with you to try and make a move as well. Johnny Avila had a big wiggle there. There might have been a little bit of contact between himself and Rye Jones. Jones racetrack to, I think, give Avila a little bit of room. That allowed the 11 of Seville to get on by. And here comes Michael Krobach, another one of the thumbs up cancer down machines. Got 3 in the field here tonight with Krobach in the 72 here inside the top 10, trying to pick up 8th position from Rye Jones right now, coming out of turn number 3. But Jones has the preferred line down the front stretch because he's getting maximum draft off the back of Avila. But Seville dropped down, I think, to try and give Krobach a little bit of a draft. That didn't work out. And Rye Jones says, you know what? I saw that move. I'm just going to try and go to the inside now on you and get the 7th spot on.
I don't think anybody in the field is wheeling their car quite like Rye Jones. He has been, like you said, just trading off positions. He and Tyler Seville have passed each other and traded off that position so many times within the last few laps. And so many times tonight in general, we've seen Rye Jones go 2, 3 wide and duke it out for position. And he's always super aggressive with it, trying to make sure that he leaves the other car just enough room not to wreck, but also not enough room to really get the preferred line. He's been playing it really smart and really, really aggressive. I've loved watching this 91 work his way around the track all night long because he has just been putting on a heck of a show. A lot of talent behind the wheel of that number 91 as he is currently running at P8, and ahead of him, we got a battle for P7, well, actually what would be P6. The number 11 tries to get to the inside of the number 63, Tyler Seville hugging that yellow line, and it looks like Avila is going to get the run out of the corner, so they're going to single file back out right behind Yazik and Thomas George, who, gotta say, we haven't talked a whole lot about Thomas George, but he's had a very good night getting up into the top 5 and pretty much staying there for the latter portion of this event. He's got some left rear end damage on the spoiler, so I gotta imagine that it's not handling quite at its peak performance. Probably a little bit of aero tight or maybe even aero loose, depending on exactly how that spoiler is affecting him. But he's not really letting that hold him back. He's still staying inside that top 5. His lap times have been comparable to the leaders all night long. In fact, actually, last time around, he was a 10th faster than Greg Evans. So he is really on the move in that number 88 machine.
Yeah, just looking right now at the top 10, your second pack of drivers is actually a little bit quicker than your front few. So that is kind of a very interesting development. I just don't think there's enough time for that second group to run down your front pack unless this front pack gets really racy. But as I say that, Drew Carroll really closing into the back of Scott Eckridge in the number 70 machine, but Carroll really backed out of it in turn number 2, and the 70 was able to scoot on away. Here comes Avila to the inside of the number 55 machine of Brian Yazik. This is the battle right now for a top 5 there. Oh, contact!
Whoa.
Ryan Yazik in the 55 saves it. What a save. I think the pack was checking up because the 04 of Mark Myers was off the pace in front of him. I think Myers was trying to let this pack on by, and I think it caught the 55 by surprise. Backed off a little bit earlier, and there was definite contact, but Yazik with one heck of a save. What a wheelman in that number 55 thumbs up cancer down Ford Mustang. We'll have to dial up a 3-wide TV replay of that at some point, but this gaggle of cars is still not out of the water yet, as there might have been more contact between the 11 and the 55.
Yeah, what a save that was. I mean, when you don't have banking to rely on to catch you and that car gets sideways, it can be really difficult to bring it back around, but Yazik did a fantastic job, and he's even held on to leave 5th place. So that is an incredible recovery, and of course the number 63 did come across the driver radio. He said, "I'm sorry about that, I didn't expect the checkup," though obviously no malicious intent there. Just like you said, lap traffic got up in front of them, the 55 let off, and again, turn 3, it's hard to see what's going on in front of you. It's such a sweeping corner as we now reach 10 to go. Such a sweeping corner that when somebody checks up in front of you, if somebody's wrecking, if anything happens just around that corner, you don't know what's going on. You can't prepare for that. That is exactly what caught the 63 off guard when the 55 had to lift. And luckily, everybody was able to drive away from it, really no worse for wear. The 63, Johnny Villa, did lose some track position. He fell back to 11th. But I would say that's a whole lot better of a result in that situation than possibly spinning out or catching the wall and damaging your car. So not too much time left in this race. You mentioned that the second pack was faster than the leaders, and that doesn't necessarily surprise me. I think these 3 lead cars have been pushing each other, Peter. I think they have been putting their cars at the absolute ragged edge of what they're capable of. And in turn, they've probably been burning up their tires something fierce and using up their equipment a little bit faster than these guys who are a little bit further back. They're kind of in a pack and they're kind of forced to take it easier into the corners to avoid hitting each other or anything like that. So maybe not enough time to really do anything with the fresher equipment. But yeah, the leader is burning up their equipment. Thomas George, last time around, 56.835, which is actually the exact same lap time almost as Greg Evans, and about a tenth slower than Drew Carroll or Scott Eckert. So he's on pace with the leaders, but right now on lap 52 out of 60, 9 to go, he's going to need possibly a lucky yellow flag, and I can guarantee you these three leaders are hoping that that yellow flag never comes.
Yeah, Steve Yenish in the number 23 machine as we watch Ry Jones go to work on the number 55 of Brian Yazek battle for the 5th position in this group of cars right here. But Steve Yenish just came down pit road. He's hoping to see a yellow flag. He came down, took on fresh tires, did not lose a lap, but he is right in front of your race leader. Kind of a heads-up move because now if the caution flag does come out, Yenish will be able to stay out and probably pick up a couple of positions. But this gaggle of cars for the 5th position on back between the 55. Now his teammate Michael Krobach, the Loud Pedal Motorsports number 72, trying to get around Ry Jones for 6th, but unable to clear him. But Johnny Avila in the number 63, he's going to go to the bottom. We're 3 wide down the back stretch, and the 63 got one heck of a run coming out of turn number 1, and he's now side by side with Ry Jones. I think Krobach says, you know, I'm going to back out of this mess and don't want to wad it up in turn number 2. Now Krobach's going to have a run back on Ry Jones. Jones to the bottom side of Avila. That's tight between the 91 and the 63. They're still really tight, and I think the 91 might have spooked Avila there, caused them to run a little bit high, but we've seen Avila run this line before, kind of jump high, then cut down low, and now the 72 of Krobach trying to push the 63 of Avila. Action's picking up here. Just 7 more laps to go in the Cleveland Raps 150 here in the Sim Racers Club Premier Series.
All of that fiery battling a little bit further back in the pack, and in the meantime, Greg Evans snuck his way up into 2nd place. He was able to overtake Drew Carroll down on the bottom lane. They both sacrificed a little bit of time to the leader. It's about a 3-car length gap now, whereas they were right bumper to bumper before that. But as we approach lap 55, we currently got 7 to go. There is more than enough time for Evans to close this gap back up and potentially make something happen. Evans, I'm sure, very hungry to get back to victory lane. He's had a very successful season so far, I believe, and we didn't have the points graphic going into this race, but so correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Evans was the points leader going into tonight, and if he wasn't tonight, he was the points leader going into last week. So he's really been consistent, really been up front, but maybe not getting the amount of wins that he really is wanting to get or expecting to get. And tonight could be the chance to find his way back to victory lane, which even if he doesn't, again, another great points night from his number 2 so far. This race is far from over. You got the 27 still right there with him. And way out in the distance, if you look on the right side of your screen, that's the number 88, Thomas George, occasionally clicking off laps that are faster than the leaders. So, yeah, don't count him out. If something crazy were to happen, if these leaders were to get together and something absolutely absurd happened, he'd be in the catbird seat to maybe make something happen. And you never know. So, it's going to be interesting to see. But they're going to come around turn 3, and they do have a little bit more lap traffic up ahead, Peter. That could come into play.
It might come into play, although, speaking of into play, Brian Yazek and the 63 of Johnny Avila are into play right now, as Yazek gets a little bit of contact from Ry Jones. I think Yazek explaining his displeasure there. Meanwhile, side-by-side battle for 2nd. Evans here in the number 2 says, you know what? I think I want to play for the lead. Look at this battle on the top right corner of your screen. 3 wide for the 6th position going off into turn number 1. Evans able to get around the outside of Drew Carroll, so move the number 2 machine up into 2nd. And so Evans gonna really try and go for this race win. We saw Drew Carroll in the number 27 machine. He was in 2nd place for a while, but with the Evans kind of getting around him as, ooh, man, was that someone in the outside wall?
We got a pass for the lead, potentially the number 2 down to the bottom. He got to the quarter panel of the number 70, but he had to lift. That is the struggle they've had all night long in turn 3. If you get pinched down to the bottom, you're not able to carry the speed out, and that is exactly what played into Scott Eckhrich's favor there. It allowed him to get the run out. As we take a look at a replay of Yazik on the top right of our screen for the 3-wide TV multicam, a little bit of contact with the number 3 and then into the outside wall. He was able to keep that thing going the right direction, but a hard hit and I'm sure substantial damage late into this event. Unfortunate to see, but as he makes his way down pit road, Greg Evans is going to make his way to the back bumper of the leader. Man, these three, second place is traded out a couple times. You mentioned it, Peter. The 27 did get up to second place for about half a lap. The number 2 immediately took that position back on the outside, and then he has been on the hunt trying to get around the number 70. But I'll tell you, that defensive play that we've seen out of the 70, the defensive driving has just been absolutely phenomenal. He's been able to keep these drivers at bay no matter how hard they charge. And even when they get up alongside of him, it seems like he's able to work that outside lane to the best of his ability and always gets that run to keep that position as we are at 3 to go here at Pocono down into turn 1. You can see the number 70 just drives in a little bit deeper than anybody behind him. And he actually doesn't lose speed on exit either. I mean, he drives it in deeper and he maintains that gap on exit as we ride on board with the number 2, Greg Evans. You can see exactly what I mean. And as they come through turn 2, I don't think that lap traffic is really going to play a part in this race. He's actually on pace with the leaders. They haven't really caught up to him much over the last few laps. Again into 3 and 4 as we head towards this stripe for 2 to go when they cross this time. It's actually Yenish ahead of them, and he does have fresh tires, as our producer is informing us, so they should not catch him by any means. 2, 3, it's going to be the same gap. It's got to be 2 more perfect laps, Peter, for Scott Eckrich.
Yeah, but he has the reigning series champion right back behind him, Greg Evans. These two have combined to win 11 Premier Series races this season up at the front of the field. Bottom left-hand corner of your screen, Greg Evans getting a run coming out of turn number 1, trying to close in on the back of Eckrich. He's looking to the inside. Eckrich throws a block on him, not able to do anything just yet. Top right-hand corner of your screen, we have battles with the number 11 of Tyler Seville. Seville in the 6th position right now. Evans again getting a strong run coming out of turn number 2. He's going to look to the inside here. Turn number 3 coming to the white flag this time.
Contact. They hit door panels right there. The number 2 lost a little bit of momentum, and the 70 is going to get back out front. What a play by the number 2. He set it up coming out of turn 2. He had a run too big to block, and he got to the inside, but unfortunately, that outside lane has been a lot stronger than I think some of these drivers were expecting, and Eckrich was again able to defend. He pinched that number 2 down the yellow line, made a little bit of contact, and that was all he needed to hold on to that lead position. And now, as they come down the back straightaway for the final time this event, he's going to have to really hope for a bobble out of the number 70 or a great run out of turn 2 to make something happen.
The number 70 of Scott Eckrich looking for win number 7 in the Premier Series season through the tunnel turn for the final time. Greg Evans not as close as he was last time by. Drew Carroll falling off the back of the number 2 of Evans. Here we go, turn number 3 for the final time here in the Cleveland Wrap 150. It will be the number 70. Scott Eckrich goes to victory lane for the 7th time this season in the Racers Club Premier Series. Evans comes home second. Drew Carroll, back-to-back podiums for the number 27 machine. Thomas George, almost back-to-back podiums for the number 88 machine. He comes home in 4th. Johnny Avila rounding out your top 5. We got one car going around. Heavy contact. I think that's Tim Knott in the 41 machine, who is absolutely toast. He's going to lose a couple of positions. Adam Hogland in the number 93 just squeaking on by right before the line. Tim Knott going to fall down to 17th in the final corner, Andre.
Yeah, not the time you want to make a mistake coming out of the final corner, but able to limp it to the line. Luckily, man, oh man, that was quite a show. These top 3 drivers were just really on each other's bumpers all night long. Nobody was able to really get away from each other. And unfortunately for Evans, I think that lunge he made was really all he had in the tank. And when it didn't work out, he was able to just hold on to second. And that 70 just kept playing that defense, and that was all she wrote. But a close and exciting night tonight here at Pocono.
Yeah, that is definitely the case. And for the number 70, we know he knows how to do one heck of a good burnout. We've seen it 6 times prior to tonight. Make it 7 here tonight on an absolute tear. Last season, of course, we saw Greg Evans get into the double digits in the win column. He's on track to do so as well this season. Already 5 wins to his name. But the number 70 is Scott Eckrich, well on his way as well. As a beautiful burnout here down the front stretch will bring up the tonight's finishing results. Scott Eckrich, Greg Evans, Drew Carroll, your top 3 finishers that we will get to talk to here in just a moment on 3 Wide TV. So don't go anywhere. They're going to be 3 fun interviews. Thomas George coming home in 4th, Johnny Avila in 5th, Tyler Seville in the number 11 coming home in the 6th spot, Michael Krobach in the 72 coming home in 7th. Good finish for him. Rye Jones finishing in 8th, was absolutely wheeling it here tonight in the number 91. Mark Cohn, great top 10 for Mark here tonight at Pocono. We know he's good at Pocono. He has done stellar here at this racetrack. I believe he won a Lionheart race at Pocono a couple of weeks back here at this racetrack. He's going to finish ninth. And Michael Larch in the number 3 machine, rounding out your top 10 there, Andre.
Looking on back, you've got John Eckert, the number 45, bringing it home at P11. Woody Mahan, after a little bit of an incident and decent recovery, he's going to bring it home at P12. Will Warsler, the number 29 machine, he's coming home 13th. Jackson Van Valkenburg with a bit of a roller coaster of a night. A lot of pace at some times, a little bit off on others. He was able to bring it home where he needed to for a good points day, P14. Alan Young, the number 24, 15th. Adam Hoglund, 16th. Behind them, to round out your top 20, it's going to be Tim Knott, Richard Fletcher, AJ Digby, and Steve Yenish. And that number 23 is going to be the last car on the lead lap there in 20th.
Mark Meyer is going to finish in 21st here tonight. Brian Yazik in 22nd. After that contact right there at the end of the race, he decided to kind of pull it over and unfortunately did not finish the race here tonight. You can see there 4 laps down. Kevin Stone in 23rd. Adam Jersky in 24th here tonight. In 25th, we have Troy Haight. Todd Kirkwood, 26th. And rounding out your 27 car field here tonight is Adam Blattell. Just trying to get some of these drivers up into the 3 Wide TV waiting room so we can get those post-race interviews for you guys back at home. Let's see if we can dial up tonight's 3rd place finisher, driver of the number 27 machine, and last week's race winner at the Nashville Super Speedway, Drew Carroll. Drew Carroll, Peter Short, 3 Wide TV booth. You get a copy?
Yeah, I got a copy, guys.
Well, Drew, this is the 2nd week in a row we've got to talk to you after the race here on 3 Wide TV. Of course, last week, picking up your first Premier Series win of the season. But here tonight, strong run up there in 3rd. Just didn't quite seem like you could do anything with the number 70 there at the end of the race. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was a struggle for sure. I am not the best driver at Pocono. Never have been. Just the aero pack is just so brutal. I'm sure you go up and down the grid, everybody's gonna say the same thing. You can't do anything. I was just trying to keep pace with the 70, just trying to manage my tires and my stuff, and the 2 got around me there at the end. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back for him. I tried going back for him. I just had nothing on the right front. I thought I saved a little bit more than I did. It's just super difficult, especially with those 2 being the best in the league. So I'm happy to come out here with a 3rd. I think it was definitely a good result for us, and hopefully we can move on.
Yeah, definitely a strong run for you. And, it just didn't seem like you were able to get that draft, that run on the number 70 to kind of propel yourself to the front. But how cool is it racing with Greg and Scott? They're both lightning quick, and you're starting to mix things up here in the Premier Series.
Yeah, they're 2 of the best. I've raced for Scott for many years, and I've had some good battles with him, and he's had some good battles with me. So we're courteous with one another how we race. And Greg I've only raced with a few times, and every time I've raced him, it's been very cordial and great. So they're both great drivers. I really feel confident in my abilities now when I can get up front and mix it up with those guys quite handsomely. So. Great drivers, great group of guys we got here. Everybody up and down the grid's really good and here for a reason. So I'm just glad we can, park this 27 up front today.
Well, definitely we go from the tricky triangle to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Road America for the Premier Series Road America Grand Prix. What are your thoughts about going left and right next week?
Honest thoughts, not very good at road courses. There's gonna be a lot of practice time we're gonna need to develop. Luckily, Road America is my favorite racetrack on the service as far as the road course goes. So hopefully, we'll be able to translate a lot of my like for it into the Cup car. But we'll see. You know, like I said, it's just gonna take a lot of practice for me to get adapted. Especially, going left and right, not my forte. But if we come out there with another solid run like we did here, I'll be more than pleased.
Well, we'll be looking for it out of the number 27 machine next week at Road America. Before we let you go here tonight, any shout outs you'd like to give out?
Absolutely. Just want to shout out Jason Galvin and Thumbs Up Cancer Down for all their support they give this number 27 team. Definitely want to thank Loud Pedal Motorsports, Michael Krobach, Brian Yazik, give me the opportunity to drive this thing. And I want to thank you guys for broadcasting, putting together everything you had to so quickly, and can't wait to see you guys next week.
All right, well, folks, that is going to do it for tonight's third place finisher, driver of the number 27 machine, Drew Carroll. Best of luck next week at Road America.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, well, let's see if we can dial up tonight's runner-up and reigning series champion here of the Sim Racers Club Premier Series, Greg Evans. Andre.
Greg Evans, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
First off, congratulations on your podium finish tonight. It was a heck of a run. Pocono is one of those tracks that's really interesting. It's a driver's track. The corners can be very difficult to navigate, but at the same time, from up here, from our perspective, it looks like the draft played a big part. How was the car feeling out there tonight, and how important was the slipstream?
I can honestly say this: I've never raced Pocono quite like I did tonight. I mean, it was. I don't know what they've done to it. I don't know. It is so frustrating. Me and Scott were talking about it, and Drew. I mean, you can't pass anybody. As soon as you get a run, all the car in front of you has to do is pull down a little bit, and it kind of like works like a draft, and you push the car in front of you. Or if you pull out of line, if they got a car in front of them, it drafts them up to that car, so your run's negated. Man, it's super frustrating. I don't know if last time I said something, iRacing came out like a couple weeks later or a couple days later and said there was a problem and fixed it supposedly. And dude, I've never had less fun finishing second. Honestly, that's just the way I feel about it. It's horrible.
I'd have to imagine it was very stressful to be in such close proximity. I mean, it was almost pack racing out there. You were in traffic a lot. I mean, you did a fantastic job navigating that pack and keeping it clean and staying out of trouble. But what was it like being so close together all night long? Because you often don't see that at a track like Pocono.
Yeah, you really don't. Like I said, to me and Scott was talking. Usually, after about 5, 6, 7 laps, you start pulling away from the guys that are slower. But with the way the draft worked tonight, I mean, it was just, everybody could stay right with you. The only reason we got away from the other pack was we kind of worked together for about 10 laps and kind of got some distance between third and fourth. But, man, it's I never have liked racing Talladega and Daytona, and I feel like right now we're racing that way every single week. So it's just it's not fun. I don't know if the NASCAR Cup cars really drive like this. If it does, it explains why all of those guys are going and racing different stuff during the week. Because you can't do anything. And like I said, and I understand iRacing wants to be as close to NASCAR racing or the Cup racing as they can get it. But at some point, if your members aren't having fun racing and can't pass each other, you got to kind of play devil's advocate and try to give us a little bit of something here. It's frustrating. You can't. There's no point in saving tires. Like I said, and used to you could stay out longer and those fresher tires would pay off, but now it's gone to the tires equalize so quick that unless you pit within a lap or two of somebody, you're going to be 10 seconds off, and you're only going to get about 3 or 4 seconds of it back. So it's just that it's different in a bad way, in my opinion. But man, it's so frustrating.
Despite the frustration, you still had a great points night. You've had a lot of those this season. You've been doing pretty great with the consistency this year, and with another good run under your belt. How do you feel going into next week? You going to carry this momentum forward?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we've had probably even though I'm complaining on here, it's probably been the best overall season that I've ever had, with top 5, top 10s. I think we finished out of the top 10 maybe once or twice. We're having a good year, but I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating. The racing is, but like I said, when you're finishing up front, you can't really complain too much. But hopefully we can get it back to where guys can actually pass a little bit better, or a little easier, and it's just going to take some work.
All right. Well, Greg, before we let you go, anybody you'd like to shout out or thank?
Yeah, man, I definitely got to thank Sam and Jordan with everything that's happened over the past few weeks. Man, they kind of threw this together for us, and I can't thank those guys enough. I couldn't imagine what and how much work they've put into this. Hopefully it pays off for them. And I know all the guys here that showed up appreciate their hard work. Got to thank Maverick Concepts, iRacing, iFlag, Hacksaw PCs, all my guys that sponsor us, Steel Horse Racing for the support as well. And thank you guys for coming back and broadcasting the races for us. And, whenever you guys broadcast this, it just makes everything 10 times more realistic and 10 times more fun for us.
All right. Well, Greg, we thank you for your time. And again, congratulations on yet another podium to add to your collection. Hopefully we're talking to you again next week, man.
Hopefully so. Y'all guys have a good week.
You too. That was a somewhat frustrated but very successful Greg Evans out of the booth. And now I think Peter Short's going to have a word with our race winner here in the booth.
Yeah, I'm just going to go down here to Victory Lane and pick up tonight's race winner, Scott Eckrich, for the 7th time this season in the Sim Racers Club Premier Series Victory Lane. But tonight, it is coming at Pocono Raceway. The Cleveland Wrap 150 race winner, Scott, able to get out front there kind of on that last restart, and you never really looked back. How important was that clean air here tonight? And tell us about some of your tight racing there at the end with Greg Evans.
Yeah, we got a new sponsor on the back of the car tonight, the Joy of Driving, and I feel like up until that last restart, there wasn't a whole lot of joy of driving around that aero package. It was almost impossible to get a run by yourself. I was able to kind of work with the teammate, Drew, pseudo teammate, and we were kind of able to make some runs happen. But just by yourself, you just stall out immediately. So just kind of use what we learned, being behind Greg and Drew in the first half, Johnny. Just kind of learning about how they were keeping me in the dirty air, and just trying to apply that in the last 30 laps. I figured, what the heck, we'll go for it here, and hopefully everything comes up our card.
Yeah, absolutely. That number 70 Amsoil machine able to get to Victory Lane for the 7th time this season. And you've been to Victory Lane on a wide variety of racetracks, including on the road courses this season. Of course, winning the Will Warsaw Racing Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas a couple months back now. But next week we go to the Road America Grand Prix, a timed race, 75 minutes. What are your thoughts about going to Road America?
Yeah, I mean, road courses seem to be, good to me this year. I was real bummed I had to miss Sonoma for a real-life engagement, but I guess we're looking to continue the Dakota run here at Road America, and I think we got a pretty good shot to do it. So I'm all for it. Let's go there now.
Absolutely. Very much looking forward to going to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, one of my favorite road courses to go to, and 75 minutes will be a lot of fun around that racetrack for you guys out there on the racetrack, but me up here in the booth as well. Hopefully passing will be a little bit easier as well on the road course with the low downforce high horsepower package. But you know what, Scott, 7 wins this season. and of course taking home win number 1 here in the Sim Racers Club Premier Series. How cool is it to be about halfway through the season and already have 7 wins?
Yeah, I mean it's nice because you know it sets you up good for the championship race. So it's good, and it lets you kind of gamble on some things too. So a few of those have worked out in our advantage. Some of them not so much. Last week could have used about another gallon of gas, but it's just definitely a relief to have that available.
Absolutely. Well, I gotta say, Scott, I really do appreciate you coming up here and chatting with us in the booth, and I know you appreciate a lot of people as well. So why don't we give you the opportunity to give some shout outs?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Mark at Team Owner for everything he helps out with every week, and the guys getting the paint jobs turned around for this week was major. So just a big shout out to those guys, and you guys up here every week killing it in the booth, and then some stuff going on behind the scene this week, and I'm just really happy for Sam and the guys that put this together for us to keep continuing here. So just a big shout out to all those guys.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again, Scott. We'll see you next week at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin for the Road America Grand Prix, and enjoy your win tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's going to do it with tonight's race winner, Scott Eckrich. And I got to say, fantastic race. Last season here at Pocono in the Premier Series, we had a lot of cautions. Here tonight, we didn't have a lot. The Joy of Driving celebrating in the chat his first top 10 of the year. Daniel Noble wanting to give a shout out to all the people in America who are putting on some amazing racing and producing that racing. Big shout out to you, Daniel. Thanks for sticking around here in the 3 Wide TV chat. Andre, any final thoughts here tonight?
It's been a pleasure as always. This league always puts on a great show. These drivers are incredibly talented, and of course, it's always great working with 3 Wide TV. Again, a fantastic showing tonight. I know the drivers were a little bit frustrated. Passing was hard, but from my perspective, a lot of close racing, a lot of bumping, and just really fun show to watch. I'm looking forward to the upcoming races, and hopefully we get just as good of a show.
Absolutely. So race number 1 of the Sim Racers Club is in the books here on 3 Wide TV. The Joy of Driving saying, Peter, Andre, Carlos, you guys watch. Y'all rock. It's getting late here, folks. Appreciate all you guys at 3 Wide TV as well. Big shout out to you, Joy of Driving. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel while you're at it. Big shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for the camera angles, another YouTube channel for all of you people to check out here. And of course, we appreciate all of you in the chat, as well as everyone who's helping putting on this particular series, the Sim Racers Club, and of course tonight's race sponsor. That's right, Cleveland Wraps. But it is a wrap on the Cleveland Wraps 150. We'll see you next week at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Road America for the Road America Grand Prix. Stay safe. We shall see you then. See ya.